This video will cover basic page editing. So here we are looking at your website. You'll notice most of the toolbar buttons are grayed out and not clickable. If you want to edit your website, you have to put your website into edit mode by simply clicking the edit button. And a few things happen here. The edit button turns blue so you know you're in edit mode. Your toolbar is now fully active and not grayed out. The menu buttons are gone so they don't get in the way as you're moving the mouse back and forth to the toolbar. You'll see dotted outlines around different sections of your page. And hovering over certain page elements will allow you to edit them or delete them. And to turn off edit mode, you just click the edit button again. And it goes back to gray, your toolbar is grayed out, and you are viewing your website the way it normally looks. Let's put it back in edit mode. Now if you have a paginated website instead of a scrolling website, your toolbar is going to look like this. And you can click on the button for whichever area you want to edit. And that area goes into edit mode. And you can switch between areas. Or click the currently active button to turn it off and view your website as normal. Okay, back to the scrolling website version. If you notice the dotted blue outlines, you basically have an outer box with boxes inside of it. This is called a table, and the boxes inside are table cells. And there are multiple tables on the page. It's sort of a grid system that will help you keep all your page content neatly organized and looking professional. And we'll cover that in the next video. For now, I want to go over some basic editing tools. If you've ever used a word processor like Microsoft Word or Apple's Pages, some of these tools should look familiar. As you know, this thing that you move around with your mouse or trackpad is called a cursor. But when you click somewhere, you end up with a blinking line. That represents where your next actions will take place. So if I start typing, that's where my letters go. And that blinking line is called a caret, not to be confused with a carrot. So whenever we say caret, we are referring to that blinking line. Okay, let's go ahead and click and drag our cursor to highlight some text. And we can make it bold, we can italicize it, maybe change the color, the size. Really simple. Now when you apply a style to text, it becomes a block element. So we can click anywhere in this block element, and the toolbar will show you the styles applied to it. And you can delete styles one by clicking on them, or for drop-downs clicking the red X next to them, or you can add more styles. Or you can click the big red X to remove all formatting, which also means it's no longer a block element. But let's undo that. Now what you don't want to do is highlight your block element again to make changes. This will create a block element inside a block element, and it just gets sloppy and difficult to edit later on. So when making changes to a block element, you just click anywhere inside to place your caret, but do not highlight the text. The only exception to this is this. Let's say you want to add something under the title. We hit return, and we type something. But it seems we are stuck in the block element formatting. So here we would highlight the part we don't want formatted and click the big red X. This removes the formatting from just that section while leaving the rest still formatted. Now this function does not work in Microsoft Edge, so the other way to do it is like this. Let's undo. Now I will click and remove the formatting from the whole thing. And then I would just go back, highlight the original section, and reapply the formatting. You get the idea. So let's go back. Now let's look at the color picker. This top section is called the color palette. The first row is your preset colors from the template designer. Let's take a look. Now that first box in your color palette is your default font color from the template designer. Now if you change this in here, it's not only going to show up in the color palette, but will also change all the font colors on your website. Over here, we have your custom font colors. When you change these, it doesn't actually change anything on your website, it just changes the other 4 colors in the top row of your color palette. These up here. And the reason we have these is so you can maintain a consistent color scheme throughout your website. You don't want your site looking all crazy with 57 different colors all over the place. The secondary row is your history, the colors you've previously used. And this will store up to 10 colors, so you may also have a third row. And if you have a custom color that you know the hex code for, you can paste it into this text box and click Save to Palette, and it will add it to your palette history. Also, the checkmark shows you which color is currently being used on the block element. Let's look at font styles. Now the first group of fonts we have in this list are called web-safe fonts, and they are always in this list. That's because every computer has these fonts installed, so they will show up on every browser. But it's very limited, so we've included the ability to add some custom fonts to your list. Let's go back to the template designer. At the bottom, we have some custom fonts that we can install. What this does is download that font to your page so that it can be displayed to your visitors even though that font is not installed on their computer. Now the limit is 3 custom fonts, and you really don't want any more than 3 fonts on your website anyways, because too many fonts on a web page will make it look sloppy. When you want to add a font, you simply hover over them to see every letter and every number of that font. And if you like it, you just click it to turn it on or click it again to turn it off. Now we already have 3 selected, but let's change a couple. We are currently using this one on our page, so we don't want to remove that one. But these 2 we can. Now let's add another 2. Microma, Swanky, and Moo. Now we save changes, and then show changes. Oh, wait a minute, we have a warning. Remember, clicking show changes reloads our page. But if we reload our page, we lose all the changes we made because we never saved it. This is a safety feature we installed, so you don't accidentally leave a page or reload it without saving your changes. So always save your changes. In fact, you should be saving your changes periodically as you edit your page. Okay, so we're going to click cancel. And then we're just going to close this window. Now let's go ahead and save the changes to our page. Up here we click save. We get a confirmation it was saved. So now we can go ahead and reload our page by clicking the reload button on our browser. Okay, now let's click edit. We go to our font list, and we see our 2 new custom fonts added at the bottom. Now the purpose of different fonts is for specific places. You don't want your font to just randomly change in the middle of a paragraph like we have here, but we can jazz up a page by applying some unique fonts to section headers like this, or even down here, our staff names, and that really helps to make it stand out. Okay, couple more things. You can change the text alignment by clicking these up here. You can set it to left, center, or right. By default, it's set to justify, which simply means that the text is made to line up neatly on both sides of the page. Now if I click Align Left, it lines up on the left, but not the right. If I click Right, it lines up on the right, but not the left. And if I center it, it lines up in the middle, but not on the sides. And if I want to remove the alignment, I just click on whatever is currently set. Right now, it's center. And there you go. We have it set to justify by default because that's the standard whether you're looking at a book, a magazine, newspaper, whatever. It just looks clean and organized. If you notice, the page title was not affected when we changed alignment. That's because the alignment only applies to that table cell. And since the title is in a different cell, it has its own alignment. And we can change that too. Now there may be times when you want to have sections of your page where text or other objects are centered and other text is justified. So you would just create a new table cell for those different sections, and we'll cover that in the next video. And we can even do bullet points or numbered lists. Let's type a few items here. Now we just highlight our list, and we can make them bullets, or numbered, or just click the button again to remove it. Super simple. Now I want to quickly touch on the HTML CSS button. This is basically for advanced users. This will show you the background code of your page, and it does have a search and replace function. And if you click the CSS button, you can add your own custom CSS code. Now if you're not familiar with HTML or CSS, you probably shouldn't mess around with these. Also, if you ever click on one of the tools in the toolbar and for some reason the dialog window doesn't show and all you see is the dark background overlay, there is a black close button in the upper right corner so you can get back to your page. Oh yeah, and if you make a mistake anywhere on your page, you can just use the undo button to step backwards. And if you go too far, you can use the redo button to step forward. And that's it for basic page editing.